Hello, everybody, and welcome. I think we'll get started now. It's the bottom of the hour. My name is Lori Berman. I am Vice President of Membership and Development for the Small Business Association of Michigan. Welcoming you today to this webinar. We're very excited for the guests that we have with us. This topic, experience the power of connection. What could be more important in your business as a business owner, learning how to create meaningful contacts? And we're going to unpack that today, a little bit of what that means in this discussion format. I want to welcome you that are on Zoom and tell you that you can ask questions using the Q&A feature. Welcome you that are watching us live on Facebook. You can also ask questions there. We'll be monitoring those and be able to ask questions for you. This will be recorded and live also on Zoom and on Facebook if you'd like to watch it again or share with someone else. So thank you again for joining us. Without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to SBAM's President and CEO, Brian Calley, and he's going to take it from here. Brian?
All right, thank you very much, Lori, and thank everybody for joining us today. And wanted to really touch on this important topic of the power of connections. What I mean, there's this saying that goes, "It's not what you know, it's who you know," and so much of life that's true. You can't really do hardly anything on your own, but having a powerful group of connections to make all the things happen that you want to make happen in your life and in your business, it's just critically important. And so this is just a great topic. And a friend and also board member of the Small Business Association of Michigan, Derek Dickow, is probably the best connector network type of person that I know. I don't even know how to describe it, Derek, but like I remember the first time that we met. We were on Mackinac Island, and I was at that time about to run for governor. And here we are walking down from the Grand Hotel down this sidewalk. And I couldn't believe that I was the statewide elected official, and yet you know every single person going down the street. And I thought, boy, I've got a lot to learn from this person on how to connect with people in such a warm and meaningful way.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, and looking forward to some of your questions. If you want to drop them in the Q&A box, it's a topic I'm very passionate about, and one that I study and one that I've embraced. I mean, it's what I am, it's what I do. And I believe wholeheartedly in this notion of giving without any expectation of anything. And it really comes across in a lot of my work. And that's what I talk to people about is how they can position other people around them before making asks on behalf of themselves, their campaigns, their projects, their missions, even if it's philanthropic or charitable programming that they're after. There is an intentional approach that I have, certainly when it comes to building relationships with people, and I just love it. And it does come across. I really do consider other people before myself, and I just like to be around people, and that's kind of that sense that you got that day at Mackinac. And it's grown. My practice has continued to grow, but more importantly, I enjoy helping people do what they're after. And for some people, it's running for office. For others, it's running a business. And for you at home, it could be just expanding your footprint and what you're trying to accomplish. And so I hope you're able to get some perspectives and insights from two people that I respect and admire in business, that are leading their respective organizations, and they're doing so with an intentional approach about caring about their team and about others. So thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
All right, very good. And how about Rick? You want to just introduce yourself, and you're connected separately.
Yep.
To Derek, and maybe just a little bit about your business background and how we arrived here.
All right. Well, Rick Becker, president of Michigan Paving Materials, CRH company. Our HR director introduced me to Derek a while back, and we had breakfast and talked a little bit, and we talked about relationships, and it seemed to we were on the same path. And then come across another friend needed somebody in the city. I called Derek, you know anybody? He goes, yeah, I know somebody. About next thing you know, we're getting, my request was getting answered through Derek, through someone else he had. And then that went so well, he talked about doing some training for us. So we put 20 of our senior leaders into a room, and he went through and explained to them about how relationships, how you keep them, how you're comfortable talking, what do you do to take away so that that you always remember and you get good mileage out of it. And that went over real well. And then I was asked to come and join this panel, and here I am. So thank you.
Yeah. very
Thank
good.
everybody that's out there.
All right, excellent. Well, let's just get into it, Derek. Let's start maybe on the side of when there's kind of a traditional way that people look at making connections. I know, like anybody who's people on LinkedIn, you get a lot of kind of like cold calls, almost like robotic type interactions. But there's kind of an equivalency to that when you walk into a room too. What do you think about business cards?
Yeah, business cards, I don't use them. In fact, the only people that I ever suggest to carry business cards are elected officials and politicians, so that they can give their numbers out to the constituents in case they have problems or issues that they need to advance, like your friend Rick. But for the most part, if you meet somebody at an event and you have a sense that there's a opportunity to have a mutually beneficial relationship in business, pull out the phone right then and there and ask them for their email or their cell phone if it's appropriate. And you want to establish a rapport with them immediately. You have an open thread of communication. Then when you get back to your desk or Monday the following week, you have a line that's open between the two of you. Giving your card out to somebody and you're just kind of hoping and wishing and praying that they call you. 99.9% of the time they're not going to call you. And it's our business. The follow-up is our business. And in order for us to ensure that a good follow-up occurs, we need to take control. Yeah, we need to take control of that relationship and immediately let them know that we're interested in doing some business or just learning about each other to see if there's an opportunity to grow. So I always advise my clients, and I'm a strong proponent, ditch the business card. If you meet somebody at an event that you think can blossom into a long-term relationship, that's what we're after. I mean, in business, we're not after transactions. We're after, the next 10, 15, 20 years. And you really need to do that with a different approach. And I think part of that approach is this kind of leave the cards at home. I know a lot of people come to events, they have this real nice one pager about their company. These are all the benefits that you have for doing business with us, but settle down on that, focus mostly on being interested in the people that you meet, and asking the right and engaging questions will let you know really quickly if there's somebody that you want to do business with.
But if you go back, but Ed, when you said about legislators to get a business card, if you do that, make sure you got their personal mobile phone number on it. Ask them, don't just assume it's there. You have your personal mobile phone on here. That's very important. Happened to me today twice. Somebody said, here is your mobile phone on it, your personal one. Yes, it is. That's you got to ask for it. You don't ask for it.
That's right. That's right. I think the most importantly when it comes to relationships, especially with elected officials, we're not asking for anything special. We're just looking to get answers, our questions answered as quickly as possible. I think that's what people want. In having a direct line to elected officials, I think is incredibly important. And ask them for their number. Write out, is this how I can reach you personally? Because when I have an issue, I need to call somebody.
One thing I'd like to add too is I always share, and when you're doing sales, I always tell my team is to help them first, and they'll always be there for you. Help them, builds that trust, and that comes together for you, and it circles back. But I always want the opportunity to say no. I don't want that deal. I want to be at the table to get a chance to say yes, I want it, or no, I don't. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that there is kind of this hard, like, sale first type mentality, sale before relationship, and it's backward. It doesn't lend itself very well. At that point, I suppose, there's some, if you're a commodity, if what you're doing you can get anywhere and you're just trying to compete based on price. But if you're trying to build a long-term relationship, I imagine you're kind of on both ends of this, right? You've got, as a small business owner yourself, you get sold to all the time, but you're also looking for new customers all the time.
Yes.
Maybe share just a little bit about just the nature of the relationship management with your customers, your longer term customers, how those come about, what do you do to take care of those customers to make sure that you are connected to them and continue to be relevant to what their needs are?
Well, a lot of times, like what Derek was talking about, reaching out with an email, you reach out. For me now, I don't get out as much, but you want to make sure your team is in front of them. If you're not spending time with your customers, somebody else is. That's kind of the program that we take an approach on. You know, during the COVID, we were laid back. We call it discretionary spend. We weren't in front of the customers, you know, because we weren't allowed to, you know, so we did that, did the virtual. Now, we've done different studies with our own team and the customers want to see you. They want you back out in front. They want you out there. And we do this safety opinion survey for all of our employees, and that's one of the things that came back. Again, it's the relationship. They want to have the safety breakfast that we would have once a month. They want to have the customer appreciation lunches so that they can get together and they can talk. We're so needed to have that, those relationships. I mean, our business, it's, you know, paving and it's quarries and it's sand and gravel. You don't move it, you know, it's all about relationships. You got to know the neighbors, you got to know the township people, you got to know the legislators, you got to educate. The more education you can give strengthens that relationship.
Yeah, so I want to maybe back up and touch or maybe expound a little bit more on the like it's so obvious, but I wonder how many miss the opportunity to just ask your customers what they find value and what they want. This idea of a survey, but then finding that that bringing them together, giving them opportunities to make other connections.
And that's what I try to do at different times. You got to be careful, but you put customers together where we had a lot of times where customers, they didn't even know, they knew each other. They were somewhat competitors, but then, you know, you put it together and then they become working together. So you get that trust. If they trust you and you introduce somebody new, like for Derek, bringing Derek into our group, the trust is there, bringing him in, there's more trust, you know, it just compounds, you know, it's that trust feeling.
Right. So how do you approach your first kind of interaction? So you're in a place, maybe you've got people that you want to get to know, you don't know them yet. And in terms of like, what do you do to give yourself the best chance of success when you know you're going to be somewhere, there's somebody there that you want to meet? But what are some of the things that you can do ahead of time and during that, whatever, that event, that place, that gathering where you're going to cross paths to give yourself a good chance of success?
But to give yourself a great chance at success, it's what you do ahead of time before you actually walk into that room. So a lot of times I'll advise people to get in with the executive director or the president or whoever's organizing the event. Call them 2 weeks in advance. Let them know that you're excited about attending their event. You've taken a look at the marketing materials. You know that this speaker is going to be there. These sponsors are going to be there. And asking that organizer if they wouldn't mind introducing you to a few people. Now, if you're paying for a ticket, they'll probably go out of their way to make introductions for you because they want to continue to see you at their events and supporting, whether it's SBAM or another event. Maybe you have a charitable event that you care about. But asking the organizer, I'm excited to attend the event. I'm taking time away from my work, my family, golf, whatever your passions are. And I want to maximize the value I can get attending the event, but also who do you know that I should meet before I attend the event? And then they'll probably give you a list of names, or there'll be a list of, sometimes they even list host committee members of these events on the graphics or the marketing materials. And then reaching out to those people in advance, letting them know that you're excited to be attending the same event. I get real excited about political events because you have a lot of like-minded people that are in the room. Charities are also a wonderful place to meet because they have you have a shared mission of whatever the organization is focused on. And so you have an opportunity to be in the right room with people. You bought your ticket or you're taking time to be there, and you want to maximize the value by getting to know some of those people in advance of the event and then reaching out to them before you attend the event. So I'll do something where I'll do a little bit of research on some of those people. And, I might even tell them, I read about you in this publication. Some people that I've looked to meet at events in the past have written books. They've written articles. I read these things. I tell them about it. maybe want to follow up on a particular subject matter. And I just tell them I'm excited to meet them. Would they give me maybe 5 minutes at an event for me to formally introduce myself? We did that at a lot of political functions, right? We call them pull-asides. There'd be a room full of 1,000 people, but you could get lost in that room if you don't have a plan of action. And so we would reach out to these people in advance. The auto show is a great example of that. Thousands of people attend the event. That these people are going to be there. We look forward to seeing you, maybe at 7 o'clock for 5 minutes at this elevator, just to shake your hand and catch up on a couple items. I mean, we do these kind of things because it's how you maximize your time and their time at an event. I think the planning ahead aspect of it is what really separates people rather than just kind of showing up and, okay, I'm here. There's 1,000 people in the room. What do I do next? Well, here, I have a plan. We're going to meet this person at 7 o'clock. We're going to meet this person at 7:20. And it's something that you really have to be thoughtful about in advance of the event. Or you could just show up and take your chances. I don't want to take chances.
Yeah,
Right? We want to be efficient.
absolutely. So you have opportunities, and there's a lot of work you do ahead of time to give yourself a good chance of success. So now you're there. I mean, what's most people's favorite topic to talk about?
Yeah, so a lot of times I think people will waste opportunities at events. You have a 30-second to maybe 2-minute window for a lot of people. And in that moment, people say something like, so where are you from? Or what do you do for work? Where do you live? I mean, these are questions that really lead you to nowhere quickly. And so what I advise people to do is ask engaging and thoughtful questions and spend more time preparing the right questions than focusing on your elevator pitch, because the elevator pitch is, again, trying to sell something to people in that first, let's call it interaction. When no one wants to buy anything, nobody's showing up to an event thinking, oh, I want to buy something at this event, or I'm looking for a mortgage or an insurance quote. This is not the approach of people. People are looking to expand their network. That's why they took their time, but they also want to sell what they're doing. They want to focus on them. So if you ask them thoughtful questions, it'll get them talking. And my favorite question, one I'll share with you today, and it's the question that I think is the gold standard for getting people talking, is what's the most exciting thing you're working on? And then pause and let them share it with you. And now you have maybe a good 2 minutes to kind of just listen, learn. And then, like all of us here, we're in the sorting business. The sorting business is going to take us down 2 paths. And the first is, I really want to follow up with this person. They're ideal for what relationship building is for me. And I want to grow with them for the next 5, 10, 15. Sometimes I meet people, I just want to hear them talk more because they're so exciting and so interesting. And then the other person is, how do I get out of this conversation, right? This is not going anywhere. This person complains about it's too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter, the traffic on the way in. They don't want to be here because their boss told them to get here. So those kind of people, we just want to exit gracefully from that conversation. But just by asking that question, you can learn a lot from people.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite questions. So it's, what's the most exciting thing you're working on? And then pause and let them share it with you.
So Rick, what's the most exciting thing you're working on?
Getting funding for the roads, right? Or a long-term funding plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that engagement in the political process. I'm a big believer, obviously.
Your history.
Yeah, I've got a background in it, and also, we're always pulling in. SBM has a really large grassroots network of small business owners that engage in the political system. And I can't point to where it is on the income statement or on the balance sheet where it helps your business to engage politically, know who's making decisions, how the decisions are made. But I can tell you it does help your balance sheet and your income statement when you're not just a passive bystander, but really actively engaged in forming relationships with people. And so not surprised to hear that you really do engage on that at that level.
Take the legislators behind the berms, take them out on a paving project, get them out there, let them see what's going on. They welcome it, right? Because they don't have a lot of experience there. They're really, really happy. And the more you do that, then they start asking to see more. And then they bring their other friends with them, and it just blossoms.
So you've had Derek in to talk to your leadership team.
Yes.
Maybe get a couple takeaways. Now, it's been a little while now and from the team, and what are some major takeaways?
Well, some of the major takeaways is how he told them how you interact, how you get it started, how you get the conversation. And then really the main one that comes, it seems simple, is the business card, because I don't carry business cards. I always do an email, or I'll ask for an email address or something and I'll automatically send them, but I don't carry business cards.
You know, one of the things that I've taken to doing, and I don't, maybe I'll just throw this at you, Derek,
Sure.
because this is kind of a new thing, but when I meet somebody and I want to stay in touch with them, I will open up contacts on my phone and hand them my phone
Yeah,
and say,
put
would
it
you
in there.
please put your contact in my phone?
Yeah, so it is it's a smart thing to do for a couple of reasons. Number one, I come across people that have very unique names. I don't want to mess up the spelling of them. And
Yeah.
if they put in email, if I do it and I miss an A with an E, it's like I don't, we didn't capture that information. So, it helps with people that have unique names, number one. And two, I mean, it's not offensive to get some on your phone because people are just so used to it, doing it quickly. But it is a very useful strategy. It's tactical, but it is a useful strategy that I use. Hey, this is a good time. I don't have cards on me. Would you please put your name and number in my phone and I'll follow up with you immediately. It's very rare that someone will say, no, I'm not gonna put my name.
Or if they put a wrong number in there, I guess you got your
Yeah,
answer.
well, that's a whole nother problem that, I used to deal with growing up. But it is a smart strategy to deal with because to utilize, because it's quick, it's simple, and they're going to get their number and email correctly. It also feels like you got a personal connection now. Now they're looking forward to you following up. And then, of course, our business is the follow up, and how we prioritize following up with people is the most important part of what we do, especially in small business.
So let's go ahead and segue into
Yeah.
that. So we talked about preparing and getting ready. We talked about making the most of the opportunity in that and getting people talking and talking about what they're excited about. So now you've learned a lot, but you just got this little window.
Yeah.
I imagine that it takes a certain amount of discipline to let that window, to let that interaction go when everybody's still feeling good. You're not gonna, close the biggest deal of your life on your first meeting with somebody. So it's about the follow-up.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. A lot of people are so focused on, let me get this deal done right now. This is the right prospect for me. But if you'll recall, when you and I first connected, I think we had a phone call, and then it was like, let's break bread on Mackinac Island. Let's talk about the future. Rick, I know that we got connected through Radisha, who I went to school with, but even then it was a phone call and let's get to breakfast.
Yep.
Right. Everything was about breaking bread and really getting a chance to.
And you like breakfast meetings.
I prefer them for a variety of reasons, and this is more tactical. But number one, most people will give you that 7:30, 8 o'clock window. They'll give you about 45 to 50 minutes, even if they're a very super successful CEO or high level. They got a window in the morning before they start their day. Lunch, I have found, it's also economical, right? Eggs and coffee is $20 at best. Lunch is 30 minutes from your desk to get to the restaurant. Then it's 90-minute meal, 3 courses, another 30 minutes to get back. So it's maybe 2.5 hours investing in something that I don't know if it could blossom into anything. So I like the idea of, especially when you're going to meet people that are above you, is to invite them to breakfast. And dinner is a non-starter. Dinner is for successful people. They're not going to give you a dinner on the first opportunity. They've got a family, they've got golf, they've got other things that they like to do, and dinner is a 3-hour meal. And of course, if you're spending and inviting somebody out to dinner, is probably like $300 a person, right? And then you consider all the wine and all the other stuff. It's 3 hours, so it's a big commitment.
Yeah, I should mention, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
Our viewers in Ionia, where I'm from.
Yeah.
There's not too many, but Birmingham
is it could be costly. And
Yeah.
so the most economical opportunity to break bread with people, in my opinion, and I have found to be very useful, is the morning, the breakfast meeting. And some people are even okay just having a cup of coffee, right? That's just a couple dollars to invest in a relationship with somebody. And I'll tell you, my dad is the kind of guy He's been an entrepreneur his whole life. So he'll come to initial breakfast meeting or lunch with his folder, and he wants to open it up halfway through. And this is all the things I can sell you. And I don't do any of that, right? When we're breaking bread on the first interaction, this is all about understanding who's that person's family, what are their goals, what are they focused on. Most importantly, like Rick was talking about earlier, how can I add value to them? Can I make some introductions for them? I just want to learn about people, because when I invest in a relationship, I want to go the whole way. I want to go 10, 15, 20 years. I'd rather build relationships with people long-term than look at it like a, one and done kind of commoditized deal.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask Derek the question, what did you think of the team when you went through the training? You asked me what I took away.
Yeah.
What did you take away? What did it seem like with the team?
So with Rick's team, we had about 25 people in a U shape. It was a full 8-hour full day workshop, all focused on networking, goal setting, relationship building. Then I go through the 5 pillars of purpose-driven networking, very interactive, engaging. And I gotta say, their team experienced, awesome at what they do. Some people probably could teach the class. You had a couple of guys in there that are gals that were very savvy when it comes to relationship development, but it was incredible to see the benefit that some of them had, and how this material and this perspective of thinking about others first, asking questions.
So you reinforced. So when you were saying some of them could teach it, they're trying to teach their peers.
Yeah.
But when you were there and what they were saying, you reinforced it. So that was the value brought from there, right? So you hear it, I can tell it, that each one can tell it, but when you come in from the outside, a third party, and go through it carries weight.
I believe it did. I believe I saw some faces in there that I think I have changed the way they think about and consider networking. And that for me is it just for them as the benefit that they gather the information, but also knowing that my content is helpful and useful to people. That's gratifying too. So it was nice to see that they enjoyed the material.
So when you go back through it and you say a breakfast meeting and stuff, it's so right. What do they say? You're never supposed to eat alone. You're always supposed to have somebody with you. I'm a morning person. I want to do everything booked in the morning. So in the afternoon, it's open for whatever may happen, right? Where we go visit job sites or whatever. But in the morning, it's real strong to be morning. And I think you get a lot of value out of doing the morning.
Yeah, I find it to be useful, and I challenge the team too to consider having more breakfast meetings, whether it's with client collaborations internally with people above them, below them. But the idea is to, it doesn't always have to be about business, right? We want to learn about who that person is, who their family is. You'll find that you have a lot of commonalities with people the more they talk about things like family, where they like to travel, what they like to do for fun. And that's an important part of our business too, is building those relationships internally.
Yeah, people have passions, and some of those passions are what they work on, but some of those passions are other things. How about leveraging that? So, say you get the breakfast meeting, or you get an in-depth enough follow-up to where you get some insight like that.
Mm-hmm.
What are any things you consider to be kind of off limits, or how do you take that? You find out I'm a marathon runner.
Yeah.
I love running marathons. So I'm in a meeting, somebody's going to hear about it because I love talking about running. It's like a religion to me almost.
Mm-hmm.
So like you just meet me and you're coming away from it. Is that useful? Do you use that somehow in your follow-up and your interactions with me later?
Absolutely. I use it because I know that's what you care about. And I create elaborate contact profiles on people. And I got a lot of stuff on you that, I know Julie, I know the kids. And so you want to pay attention to what's important to people. Not that it's some kind of manipulation, but if they're sharing it with you, it means it's important to them. And if the person sitting across from you or next to you is important to you, I think it's a compliment to them that you care about what's important to them. And so do I use it? I might ask you, have you been running lately? Because I want you to share with me what's important to you, because that's part of a relationship right there. And so that it's incredibly helpful to be aware of what's important to people, but also to bring it up from time to time, because it can't always be about business. Right. It can't always be about, can you help me with this? Can you do that? And because every time you call it, eventually you can say, you got to stop calling me. You keep asking me for stuff. Can we talk about other things? And so, yeah, I think it's incredibly helpful when you have customers that you're familiar with their family situation. Where do the kids go to school? What are their activities? The family have a dog. What's the dog's name? I mean, all these things are helpful depending on how further you want to advance the relationship. And I think that's important. I think there's a couple of areas that I think if you ask people about, they will not stop talking. It's two areas I have, well, three. Family, of course. The second one is where they like to eat. A lot of people enjoy eating at some restaurants. And then the third, I've found that if you just ask people about travel, people love to share with you like where they like to go, what they like to do, where their next vacation is. But most importantly, it elicits a happy response out of them, which gets them talking, gets them sharing. And that's what you want to do when you develop relationships.
You know, there's a process that just kind of has developed over the last, I don't know, few years, especially when with COVID, just the idea of face-to-face interactions was like on hold for a while.
Mhm.
And you're talking to people on the phone, and so just catching up, or maybe it's on a video meeting, that it wasn't unusual for half of the meeting to be spent on literally catching up.
Mhm.
So this is somebody that I know enough about. We're just going to catch up for a while. I've got business I want to talk about,
Sure.
and we'll get to that. But sometimes the business was a tack on to the very, very, very end of the meeting.
Mhm.
And
That's a
so
good
it
meeting.
was, yes, right.
Yeah.
It was, and what I found is that there's more, especially, I'm in the volunteer business, right? We like for an association, we've got all these people that they give and they give and they give their time, their treasure, their talent, their insight to make SBAM what it is. So I feel like I'm always asking people to somehow be a part of what we're doing and help us to be successful. But oftentimes it's just it's the 2 minutes at the end of a half-hour conversation.
Mhm.
Where there's something as, oh, and by the way, we've got this need at SBAM. I think you could really help out a lot. Would you be willing to be a part of this? Would you be willing to make this connection, make this call, sponsor this event? We're putting together a group. Would you be a part of it? We're doing a focus group on an issue. We need to talk to some legislators on something. Like there's just so many different things. And it's literally, instead of spending the whole meeting talking about that, it is just kind of it's almost like an afterthought.
And it should be. It's the old 95-5 rule, right? 95% is the person, what they're focused on, the other areas that you build the relationship. And then, oh, by the way, let's talk some business here at the end. That formula for me has been very successful, especially coming out of the pandemic, although I think the pandemic is over, right? Fortunately, we're done with that. But I would always talk to people first about health. I know we haven't seen each other in a while. I know it's been a minute since we caught up. Catch me up on your health. How are you doing? What are you doing to stay healthy? Is your family good? Because everything else seems to matter so minimally compared to us being alive and being healthy.
Yeah.
So that's been a very big focus of driving conversations. But I find that when you do that with people, they're more than willing to all right, yeah, how can I help at the end? It's having that interest of what's important to them.
Right.
So you talk about reaching out, and I share a little bit, we're always big on safety. We got to keep everybody going home safe, and we're doing a lot of different things. So we've got this day called See Stop Do. The last Thursday of the month, it's called See Stop Do. And I've asked managers to give me names of employees that have done something great or whatever, because it says, reach out to somebody, have a conversation and see how it goes. And you make the calls and you call a frontline person and say, hey, thanks a lot for what you did. And thanks a lot for doing this and that. And it gives you that feeling that in that time to touch it, but it's going back to what you're saying, reaching out. But we tied it to something, See Stop Do Day. So we stop and we get everybody together and we talk about safety. But then I do some calls because you connect with people that I probably wouldn't see, or it would take me, it'd take me 2 days across the state, and I can do it with the phone and make some calls. So it really pays off.
Yeah, that's been an important part of my practice. I call them gratitude calls. And many years ago, I remember I used to write thank you cards, holiday greeting cards, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and sign my name at the bottom. I think in 1 year I might have done 50. And then something happened and somebody that I know very well passed away from cancer, and he would do these gratitude calls. And 1 year I was on his gratitude call list. I was blown away that he included me, and he wouldn't say anything other than Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm thinking about you and your family, and talk to you soon. And when he passed in 2014, I started to implement that. And that's all it is. Just calling people, just saying thank you. And you would not believe how much people appreciate that outreach, and that you take a few minutes of your time to call, and most of the time it's just voicemails.
Put a birth date in your calendar, in your Outlook calendar, so
Yeah.
it pops up. You send a text in the morning, happy birthday. I always do that as soon as I get going, and everybody, how do you remember that? Well, because I got it someplace, I put it in my Outlook, and then you always do that. People don't care how much you know, it's how much you care.
Yeah, they appreciate it. That's right.
Well, great advice. I wanted to check in, make sure with Lori, if there weren't any questions and in the comments that maybe we should address before we
Thank
before
you.
we start wrapping up.
Thank you for asking. There was one. I know that you did talk about a couple of great questions to engage people. I liked that. I really like the one asking what is the most exciting thing you're working on. Did you have a couple of others? What else works?
Yeah.
I have to say I might use one of those that you said not to use. So tell us more about what else to use besides the weather.
Well, yeah. So people want to ask about or they want to talk about the weather, or
Now, if you got a place in Florida,
That's
maybe
it.
they do want
they
to
do
talk
want to talk
about
about the
That's
weather.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
right
Florida's
now.
got not a
Right
good
now,
time
for
to be in
sure.
Florida. I love the question when you have a conference or an event, asking people, is there anyone specifically that you'd like to meet while you're here? Because everybody has an agenda for why they took time from their business, their family, to show up to that room. So getting to the heart of the matter. So why did you come to the conference today? Who are you looking to meet? I love to ask people who their ideal client is, because that gets them thinking. I know a lot of attorneys and CPAs, they're really hyper focused, and these are the perfect clients for me. And then the way that my brain works is I instantly try to think about, who can I introduce them to? And sometimes I'll turn around at an event, oh, John, you have to meet Larry. I mean, that happens a lot at events in person. But for the most part, I like to listen when I ask those questions. A lot of times I'll take out what I have, just like a note card and a pen. So I know that we have the application on our phone to take notes. But as soon as I pull my phone out and someone's talking, they immediately start to think he's checked out,
Lost interest.
doesn't want to be here, not present in the conversation, or is on social media. And so I love the old fashioned note card, and I'll literally, as people are talking, I'll write down notes. If it's a very quick interaction, I might have to write their number down, or even what they were wearing, what they're talking about. I mean, I get pretty elaborate with it. But the point is, when we write the handwritten note to ourselves, there's something that happens in our minds that's, all right, this is important for me to follow up on. And so I'll write down, okay, this, John needs to meet a small business owner that does X or Y. And then I'll go to my desk. I think about, all right, who can I make an introduction to? And if the person is interesting to me, Rick, I want to make 2 or 3 of those relational deposits into them before I ever ask for anything. And so it's just the way I work. It's like breathing for me. I realize it's not always the same for most people, but I found it to be very useful in developing relationships, what I think is with a long-term mindset and approach.
I love that idea of so you're providing value. I mean, you're just doing it, and it's for free. Like
Yeah.
there's no transaction. There's no
counting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you learn something, and then you take notes, you keep track of it.
Yeah.
And part of your follow-up is to provide some sort of value to them through a connection. You know what they want, you know a lot of people. How can you bring the power of your network to bring value to them? And then by the time you get to a point where there's something they can do for you, you've got a few deposits made.
I'll make an ask at some point, but I got to rely on my ability to add those relational deposits. So there's probably 5 or 6 ways that you can add value to people. Rick, you do it through education. You bring people to your office, you host those events. That's a very smart way to help gather, and you can also control the invitation list. And and really build out some value for attendees. That's one way to do it, inviting people to breakfast, getting to know them more, inviting them to a game. I mean, these are all ways that you can add value. I just love, for me, is trying to think about, all right, what's the best way I could bring value to a new relationship is making a qualified introduction where both parties can be of benefit. And that, I think, is what we can offer people.
Very good. Derek, there is another question for you.
Sure.
Chris has asked, where do you keep your notes? How do you keep track of them? Do you use an app? After you take all those, what's your organization?
Yeah, my organization is through Salesforce. We find it to be a useful CRM. It's probably the Ferraris of CRMs, although we probably drive it like a Buick. We could get a lot more out of it. So I don't know that I do the best job at it, but I think it's okay. And then what I do is I do segment my list into different categories. There's one for politics, one for nonprofits, one for bankers, one for insurance companies, and so on and so forth. And I just try to think about when I have something that I need to make outreach on, like an event or some kind of fundraising campaign, then I'll go through my list and think about who I want to connect with.
Very good. Do any of you think, is there a hard and fast rule on following up? So you've talked to someone, met them, they've given you, perhaps they've taken Brian's phone and put their contact information in. When you reach out to someone, is there a number of times that if you don't hear from them, you stop? Like when is, if they haven't replied in that scenario, would you say time to back up?
Who wants to take that?
I would do the next day, right? And if I don't.
Very
hear
next day.
something, the next day I would follow up. And if I didn't hear something the following day, I'd reach back out again. Did you get my message or whatever? I would be quick on it.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'd give it at least 2 times. I should say, I would give it 2 times. I mean, there's, when I reach out to somebody, I know for me, stuff does get buried. Like, it seems like like everybody wants to talk at the same time and I get all this. And so it's sometimes something can get buried. So just one more, hey, just want to ping you here again on this, on whatever, on this text, on this email. And or just want to move this up your inbox. Could you take a look? And then, at that point, though, once you've asked twice and you don't have a response, then, I think you gotta, yeah, right. I mean, either it's just not a good time for them. And so being a bully about it was never going to make sense. But then, but it's not giving up necessarily either. I think sometimes you can look for other, maybe the content wasn't right. So maybe you have to think about, okay, I'm not in this interaction, I'm not providing enough value for them to prioritize it. How can I put more value on the table? Maybe it's one of these power connections. Maybe it's, what can I do? And it could be just opportunistic that I can't tell you how many times I've been in a room and I, I kind of had the impression that, oh, maybe that person just didn't want to talk. And I'll be in a room and say, oh, I owe you an email. And then the next day I'll get it. So I wouldn't be too shy about it, but I do think that you can get to a point where it's just obnoxious if you keep on emailing.
Yeah, you both make excellent points. I love the 24-hour rule. If they're very important to you, following up the next day, you don't want to seem too eager. So a couple times to follow up is always good advice. I even think sometimes it's just timing for people. People have a million things going on and there's only so much time in the day. And then I'm always brought back to this quote I learned a long time ago, very useful in politics. And that is that it's easier to give birth than it is to resurrect the dead. So after a while, we just move on with life and that's okay. I mean, there's a lot more business out there. There's a lot of people that need our help. They need our value. They need our introductions, and they'd be more than happy to do business with us. Might not be this moment with this person.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, good. Well, are there any other questions, Lori?
We
before
do
wrap up?
not have any other questions here. I thank you for all of our viewers for joining us. And a special thanks to our guest today, Derek Dickow, president of DerekDickow.com, Rick Becker, president of Michigan Paving and Materials. Thank you so much. And of course, our own Brian Kaley, president CEO of SBAM. Thank you, our speakers, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.